There are distances, my dear ones, that are not born of coldness, but of care. Distances that do not divide, but define. When a soul has walked too long through noise and demand, it learns that quiet is not loneliness, it is preservation. You see, the heart is a soft vessel, yet it carries the weight of worlds. It beats through disappointment, through rejection, through the hungry hands of those who take without giving. And if we do not teach it the art of distance, it will bleed itself into emptiness. Some will tell you a love means giving all, but wisdom replies, a love means knowing when to pause. To protect the heart is not to harden it. No, it is to cradle it gently like a fragile truth, because the heart cannot pour kindness if it has been drained of its calm. In classrooms of life, we are rarely taught boundaries. We learn math and language, but not the arithmetic of emotional balance. We are told to forgive endlessly, to stay endlessly, but no one says, it is noble to step away when your peace is in peril. Distance, my friends, is a form of education. It teaches you who reaches out when you retreat. It shows you which bonds breathe freely and which ones choke when space arrives. And in that revelation, the heart becomes wiser, quieter, and infinitely more powerful. To protect the heart is to protect the source of empathy. Because a heart that is bruised by overgiving soon forgets how to give it all. So we learn the sacred dance, close enough to love, far enough to live. Would you like me to continue this speech further to about 3-4 more paragraphs in the same poetic Maya Angelou tone, or keep it exactly at this length for video narration? There are distances, my dear ones, that are not born of coldness, but of care. Distances that do not divine, but define. Sometimes love demands that we step back, not to abandon, but to understand. When a soul has walked too long through noise, expectation, and endless giving, it learns that quiet is not loneliness, it is preservation. You see, there is a rhythm to emotional health, a cadence that must be respected. And when that rhythm is disrupted by constant closeness, by the ceaseless demands of others, the heart begins to lose its sacred tempo. The heart, my child, is a soft vessel, yet it carries the weight of world. It beats through disappointment, rejection, and the hungry hands of those who take without giving. It forgives faster than it should and loves deeper than it is often loved in return. But even a heart so generous must learn one crucial lesson: that protection is not selfishness. If we do not teach it the art of distance, it will bleed itself into emptiness. It will continue to pour even when its own cup has run dry. People will tell you a love means giving all, but wisdom, steady and timeless, whispers otherwise. A love means knowing when to pause. To protect your heart is not to wall it off. It is to cradle it. It is to say, I am sacred too. It is to recognize that your spirit, your energy, your joy, they are not inexhaustible. You cannot heal the world while letting your own soul fracture quietly in the background. There must be room for you to breathe, to sit in your silence, to refill what life has taken from you. We live in a world that glorifies self-sacrifice but forgets self-respect. In schools and homes, we are taught the equations of numbers and the rules of grammar, but not the arithmetic of emotional balance. We are taught to forgive endlessly, to understand endlessly, to be patient endlessly. But rarely are we told that walking away can also be an act of love, love for yourself, love for your sanity, love for your peace. No one teaches that a no is a full sentence, that space is sometimes the only medicine that heals. Distance, my dear, is not punishment, it's perspective. When you step back, you see who reaches forward. You see who values your presence, who honors your silence, who respects your absence. It reveals truths that words often hide. Distance teaches you that some relationships grow in space, while others dissolve when they can no longer feed on your nearness. That lesson, though painful, is one of the finest teachers of maturity. To protect your heart is to protect the source of your empathy. Because when a heart is overused, it begins to grow calloused. It forgets how to feel freely. But a protected heart, one that has learned to rest, to heal, to breathe, is a fountain that never runs dry. It knows how to love without losing itself. It knows how to give without breaking. So when you choose distance, do not feel guilt, feel gratitude. For you are not walking away, you are walking toward your peace. Self-respect is not born from pride. It blossoms from awareness. It is the quiet realization that your time, your energy, and your emotions are sacred. Too often we trade our peace for the comfort of others. We stay in conversations that drain us, in relationships that suffocate us, in spaces that no longer honor who we are becoming. We mistake tolerance for strength, and we call it kindness. But there comes a moment, a holy moment, when you must choose to honor yourself above the need to be accepted. That is where self-respect begins. To protect your heart, you must learn that approval is a fleeting comfort, while self-respect is a lasting peace. People's opinions change with the winds of their moods, but the way you honor yourself must remain unmoved. When you begin to see your worth not as something that needs validation, but as something that already is, you no longer chase after love that costs your dignity. You understand that peace does not beg. Peace stands tall, it does not shout, but it speaks with a stillness that cannot be shaken. The world often tells us that humility means shrinking ourselves. But humility does not mean forgetting your value. You can bow without breaking. You can serve without surrendering your soul. When you truly respect yourself, you understand that saying no is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is the gentle guardrail that keeps your spirit from falling into exhaustion. You begin to realize that every time you abandon your own boundaries for the comfort of others, you teach them that your peace is negotiable. And the heart, oh, the heart is too precious to be treated as a bargain. When you love yourself deeply, you stop chasing people who only notice your worth when it serves their comfort. You no longer beg for love that should flow freely. You learn to sit with yourself in stillness and find beauty in your own company. That kind of solitude is not loneliness. It is sacred restoration. Choose where your heart learns that peace is not something others grant you. It is something you cultivate. It is a garden that only grows when tended with respect. The lesson of self-respect is simple yet hard to live. You cannot heal by returning to what keeps breaking you, and you cannot find yourself in the approval of those who never truly saw you. There will be times when distance feels like loss, but in truth, it is freedom in disguise. It is the reclaiming of your power, the remembering of your worth. To protect your heart, you must learn to honor it, not by building walls, but by opening your arms only to those who carry gentleness. When you choose self-respect over approval, you declare that your peace is not up for debate. You teach the world how to treat you, not by words, but by the distances you allow. And in that sacred space, the heart learns to rest in its own truth, unbothered, unshaken, and beautifully whole. There are moments in life when stepping back is not retreat, but renewal. Healing does not always come wrapped in noise and company. Often it comes in silence and stillness and distance. The heart, when wounded, does not heal through constant explanation or endless exposure. It heals through the grace of space, a sacred pause between what was and what is yet to come. Distance, though misunderstood, is medicine for the weary spirit. It gives the heart permission to breathe, to untangle the knots of emotion, to find its rhythm again after the storms of disappointment. When you step away, you are not abandoning the people or memories that once mattered. You are choosing to protect the small, trembling light within you that has been dimmed by too much giving, too much waiting, too much hoping. Healing is not found in the hands that hurt you, nor in the spaces that no longer hold kindness. Healing begins the moment you decide to stop reopening wounds in the name of loyalty. It begins when you understand that love does not demand your suffering as proof of its strength. Some people mistake your distance for bitterness, but they do not see the quiet repair happening beneath your calm. They do not hear the silent prayers whispered at midnight, the gentle stitching of a heart learning to trust itself again. Healing requires patience, and distance gives you that time. Time to see things not as they felt, but as they truly were. Time to realize that not every connection deserves continuation. Time to remember that your worth is not measured by your endurance of pain, but by your capacity to rise after it. When we stay too close to the source of our hurt, we confuse chaos with connection. We begin to believe that the ache is normal, that constant emotional turbulence is love. But love in its purest form is peace. It does not drain, it restores. Distance allows the heart to relearn that truth. It teaches you that you can miss someone and still move on, that you can forgive without reopening the door, and that you can care deeply without being consumed. Healing is not the absence of memory. It is the presence of understanding. In your distance, you may discover that the things you once chased no longer hold meaning. You may realize that your silence has more power than your explanations ever did. That peace once tasted is worth more than approval, and solitude can be sweeter than company that costs your serenity. The heart, once given time to heal, becomes wiser. It begins to choose softly, to love slowly, to listen to its own pulse before it listens to others. So when you step back, do not see it as giving up. See it as giving your heart back to itself. Healing is not forgetting, it is remembering who you were before the world taught you to hurt. Distance is not the end of love, it is the beginning of peace. Love is a beautiful force, but beauty without wisdom can become a storm. To love wisely is to see beyond the pull of emotion and into the depth of truth. Not every closeness is care, and not every distance is coldness. Sometimes the ones who stand a little apart are the ones who love most purely, because they understand that love cannot thrive when it suffocates. To love wisely means to allow space for growth, for individuality, for silence between words. It means understanding that affection without respect is not devotion, it is dependence. Love is not meant to cage the heart, it is meant to set it free. It should not demand constant presence to prove its worth. The sun loves the earth from a distance, yet life blooms because of it. So too should love be, warm, sustaining, and balanced with space. When love clings too tightly, it begins to lose its grace. It becomes fear disguised as affection, control disguised care. To love with wisdom is to know when to hold on and when to release, when to speak and when to let silence speak for you. Many hearts have broken not because they were unloved, but because they were loved without understanding. Love without wisdom demands too much and listens too little. It forgets that the person before you is not a possession, but a whole universe, complete and sacred in their own right. Love must not devour, it must nurture. It should never seek to make someone smaller so that you can feel larger beside them. True love builds two souls at once. It honors both as equals in strength, in freedom, in light. Wisdom in love is not cold. It is compassionate clarity. It allows you to step back and see whether your giving still flows from joy or has become obligation. It asks you to pause and ask, am I loving this person or am I trying to be needed? When love becomes an effort to be essential, it has already lost its truth. Real love thrives in freedom, where both hearts choose each other not from fear of loss, but from the beauty of connection. To love wisely is to accept that distance can be an act of love. Sometimes stepping away is what allows both hearts to breathe again. It's what gives each person the chance to return to themselves and to see each other with new eyes. In distance, love is tested, but it is also purified. What remains after the space is not emptiness, but essence, the truth of what was always there beneath the noise. Love with wisdom does not fade with silence. It deepens. It understands that tenderness can exist without possession, and care can exist without control. It knows that love is not measured by how often you hold on, but by how gently you let go when holding hurts. To love wisely is to love bravely, with heart, with balance, and with the freedom that keeps the soul alive. Inner freedom is the quiet revolution that begins within the heart. It is the moment you realize that your peace does not depend on anyone's approval, affection, or understanding. True freedom is not about where you go, but about what no longer controls you. When you stop living for the expectations of others, when you stop bending yourself to fit into spaces too small for your soul, you begin to breathe differently. That breath, that first breath of independence, is the sound of your spirit returning home. The world often teaches us to seek validation like air. We are told that being liked means being worthy, that being accepted means being enough. But those lessons chain the heart to a fragile sense of worth, one that rises and falls with every opinion around us. Inner freedom is learning to release those chains. It is remembering that your value was never meant to be debated. You are not a mirror for others to project upon. You are a light meant to shine regardless of who notices. When you depend too deeply on outside validation, you surrender the keys to your own peace. Every word, every glance, every silence begins to shape your mood, your choices, your self-image. But the heart cannot flourish under such constant judgment. It grows anxious, restless, unsure. It becomes a bird that forgets it can fly. Inner freedom restores those wings. It teaches you that you can love people deeply without allowing their opinions to imprison your joy. You can care for others without abandoning yourself in the process. To protect the heart, you must learn the balance between openness and sovereignty. You can listen to others without absorbing their doubts. You can walk beside them without letting them direct your path. The heart was not made to be owned. It was made to be honored. And to honor it, you must sometimes step back from the noise, from the comparisons, from the endless pursuit of being enough. Freedom lives in the stillness where you remember that you already are. There is strength in choosing peace over performance. When you are no longer driven by the need to prove yourself, you begin to live authentically. You start saying yes only when it aligns with your spirit and no when it protects your peace. You stop apologizing for existing as you are. And in that truth, you discover that the people who truly love you do not require you to shrink. They celebrate your growth, your silence, your light. Inner freedom does not mean indifference. It means loving without losing balance, caring without losing center, giving without giving yourself away. It is not rebellion against the world, it is harmony within yourself. The free heart is not hard, it is steady. It beats to its own rhythm, untamed by expectations, untouched by fear. And when you reach that state, you realize that the greatest gift you can ever give the world is a peaceful, unbound soul. There are people who come into your life not to share your light, but to borrow it. They arrive with open hands and tired hearts, and at first you do not notice how much of yourself you give away. You offer understanding, patience, and compassion because you believe that is what love means. But over time, you start to feel a quiet emptiness where joy used to live. This is how emotional takers work. Not always with malice, but with unawareness. They do not see the slow dimming of your spirit, only the comfort of their own healing in your presence. The heart is generous by nature. It wants to help, to comfort, to fix. But generosity without discernment becomes self-erasure. When you give endlessly without boundaries, you begin to vanish within your own kindness. It is not cruelty to say no, it is courage. Protecting your energy does not make you unkind, it makes you conscious. There is a difference between supporting someone and saving them. The first honors both hearts. The second drains one to feed the other. Recognizing emotional takers is not about judgment, but awareness. You start to see the patterns. Conversations that leave you exhausted, relationships that revolve around their pain but never your peace, situations where your empathy is a currency constantly spent but never replenished. These moments teach you that love cannot thrive where one heart keeps giving and the other only receives. Balance is not optional, it is essential. Without it, affection turns into obligation and connection becomes a quiet burden. It takes wisdom to know when to stop pouring. It takes even greater strength to accept that not everyone you care for is meant to stay close. Some souls are lessons, not lifetimes. They teach you to value your own emotional space, to honor your limits, to trust that saying, enough is not the end of compassion, but the beginning of self-respect. The heart, when left unguarded, will stretch itself too thin, trying to heal the world. But a protected heart learns to give wisely, to offer warmth without losing its flame. You are not responsible for saving everyone. The weight of another person's peace is not yours to carry alone. You can love deeply and still choose distance. You can care sincerely and still walk away from what drains you. Real love does not demand your exhaustion. It respects your need to rest. When you protect your heart, you teach others how to protect theirs too. Your boundaries become silent lessons in self-worth. The truth is, not everyone who reaches for your hand deserves to hold it forever. Some are meant to remind you of the power of your empathy, while others are meant to teach you its limits. Recognizing emotional takers is not an act of rejection, it is an act of preservation. Because when your heart is no longer depleted, it becomes capable of loving in its purest, strongest, most enduring form. Peace is one of the rarest treasures in this noisy world, and the heart must learn to protect it like sacred gold. There comes a time in every life when being understood is no longer the goal. Being at peace is. The older the soul becomes, the more it realizes that silence is not weakness, but wisdom. You stop chasing explanations, stop rehearsing your pain for those unwilling to listen, and instead you turn inward where serenity quietly lives. The heart does not always need to fight to be seen. Sometimes it only needs to be still. Peace is not the absence of noise, it is the ability to remain calm within it. You can live in a loud world and still carry silence inside you. That is the art of protecting the heart, knowing when to engage and when to step away. There will be people who misunderstand your calm, who call your distance pride or indifference, but they do not see the battles you've already fought to earn this stillness. They do not understand that peace is not given. It is built. Brick by brick, through disappointments, through tears, through lessons learned the hardest way. When the heart has been bruised by misunderstanding, it begins to crave quiet. It no longer needs to prove its worth through endless conversation or constant closeness. It starts to value the moments when nothing needs to be said, when the air is free of expectation. Protecting your peace means letting go of the need to defend your choices. It means realizing that your truth does not require their agreement to remain valid. It is a gentle kind of freedom, one that asks for no audience, no validation, no applause. Peace also teaches you to see love differently. You learn that not every connection must be pursued, not every conflict must be solved, not every opinion must be corrected. There is wisdom in walking away and allowing silence to close the chapter that words could never fix. Peace does not demand control. It invites surrender, not to others, but to yourself. It asks you to trust that letting go is not losing, but choosing. Choosing your mental clarity, your emotional balance, your spiritual grounding. A peaceful heart does not seek revenge. It seeks restoration. It does not argue with withdraws from it. It knows that energy is precious and not every situation deserves a reaction. Protecting your peace is not selfishness, it is survival. Because when your peace is intact, you see life through clearer eyes, you love with gentleness instead of fear, and you speak with grace instead of pain. So protect your peace even when others don't understand. Step back when your spirit feels crowded. Guard the stillness that keeps you whole. The world may not always applaud your silence, but your soul will. And when the heart learns to choose peace over attention, over noise, over approval, it finds a strength that no chaos can ever touch. And so, my dear ones, remember this. Protecting your heart is not an act of fear, but of faith. Faith in your own worth, faith in your quiet strength, faith that love can still flourish without chaos. The distances you create are not walls. They are gardens where your peace can grow, where your spirit can rest, and where your truth can breathe freely. Let no one shame you for choosing calm over confusion or solitude over noise. For in learning when to step back, you are not losing anyone, you are finding yourself.